Welcome back to Book of Dawn, IOTH Academy. Our story resumes with Lemon Kiwi's character Garnet, who's a chosen blessed child of the sunbright city of Brontha, who just narrowly escaped getting caught by her parents after daring to do something messy for the first time in her life. She lied, she got away with it. And our story is actually going to resume a year later. Is there anything else you wanted to add to our last scene before we move things along?
Nope.
All right. We rejoin Garnet at the age of 7, and the first major time that she ever leaves the city of Brontha. With the betrothal to Pevomm from a very important family descended from the Dune Rider people who wander the deserts, always one step ahead of the Infernals and their minions. On the anniversary of the 7th anniversary of the miracle that saved Brontha and the 1-year anniversary of the dedication of the Cradle of the Sun, a great pilgrimage is formed. Your parents have been fussing over this for months. They started planning this almost immediately after the anointing of the temple went so well. As usual, a lot of these details are being parsed outside of Garnet's purview. Grown-ups making grown-up plans, but she's always sort of understood these plans. You know that your mother has been arranging for the best of the Phoenix Knights to go with this caravan to protect you. You know that your father has been worrying about the itinerary and plotting pathways and deciding which settlement they need to go visit, which one's going to be the safest, which is going to be the most important. Are there any shrines or holy places we should visit along the way? How long should we stay? What kind of food should we bring? Where are we going to water our camels? Just all sorts of things along these lines. They've been hustling and bustling and planning this for months. How does Garnet feel about the prospect of leaving her home?
I think she goes along with the process again, not really worried because she knows she's really well taken care of and she has a lot of trust in, Zillar and the knights and her parents that everything will be
Mhm.
taken care of. And I think she's really excited to see what's beyond her home because if this is the first time, this is like a big deal.
Mhm.
And she probably has if she has seen Pavam, before, during these months of planning, maybe she's, like, talking to him about it and, like, asking him, especially since he was from the outside,
He
right?
was born here, but his mother's from the outside, so he's
Oh,
heard her stories all the time. He's
so
been
listening to
outside
his
before.
stories probably. So probably, like, "So what was it like? Well, what's out there?" And again,
Mhm.
lots of questions. "What's this? What's that? What should I expect?" And not in a worried way, but just in a very curious way, and this is where, Garnett has always just been reading stuff about studies and theory and not about children's stories, so this is, like,
Mhm.
starting to be more childlike with Pavam and now getting those stories of what's on the outside. And maybe, I don't know if he's exaggerating some stuff or making some stuff up, but she's going to believe everything Pavam says.
Pavon's stories are from his mother, and he tells you about all these stories about swashbuckling riders who storm across the desert on their beautiful horses, always one step ahead or always smarter than the Infernals and their minions, always tricking them and outsmarting them and saving people by being brilliant warriors who are excellent with the sword, and how the greatest among them they hunt down flying snakes and turn their spines into swords, and that can kill anything. That could kill an infernal. And they're poets, and they know where all the secret waters are hidden, and they know the roads that lead through the other world, and anyone who rides with them is safe, and just all these it's this is not the academic approach. This is not the curated historical information that Garnet's used to
Mhm.
intaking. These are tales.
She's probably like, immediately picks up on the snake part. She's like, snakes? Their spines could be swords, maybe flips open a book. And it's like, but the density is only like insert number here. And like, but how it's shaped, like, how would you possibly curate the metal? And I'm like, attached to like
Roll an
little
intelligence
details.
check.
Okay. uh,
A 9.
ugh.
Yeah, it's a
What the
mystery.
heck?
You haven't figured it out. It doesn't make any sense.
Just so I'm maybe not like not believing him, but I'm definitely like, what are you saying? Like like trying to find the page. Like, no, there was this
Hmm.
page I saw this one time, and I can't find the page. So I'm like, but how does the snake spine? And
It's
then
a
he's
secret
probably
that, he's not really hung up on the details. Like he is curious. He's like, I don't know. It's a secret. It's something that they only keep among themselves. They don't want
hmm.
other people to learn how to do it.
Well, I can't wait to see all of it, and I'm gonna tell you all the stories when I come back of all the things that I get to see. Maybe next time you can come with me.
He is super excited. He's been outside before, but never that far away. And then before we get too much further, go ahead and roll. As the two of you are sitting over a game of pillars and having this conversation, roll your gaming set,
Okay.
and you can use probably intelligence to 1v1 him, unless you're trying to keep him distracted, in which case you can use charisma. It'll ask you which you want to use.
Yeah. Do I do charisma or I'm gonna probably like as he's distracted by these stories, I'm
Hmm.
gonna is it charisma if I'm trying to use that distraction while he's not paying attention, or is it? I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that'll work. Charisma will work.
Okay, I'll do
Mathematically,
that.
it's identical, but I think it tells us something about the character, you know?
Just slap his little butt in pillars.
Or do you?
Oh, what?
He's really good at it. You got a 19, and what's funny is that he seems totally distracted and into his story, and then you look down at the board and you're just like, what did you and
And I'm
he's
probably like jaw drop that he beat me. Was this like the first time he's ever beaten me, or do you think we've traded a few
uh
times?
you win most of the time, but he gets better every single time. He really has a mind for this. Like, you're good at this because you're good at a lot of the things that you do, but this seems to be the one thing that he's hyper focused on. So, but he's also not even super excited by the fact that he beat you. He's more interested in the fact that you're going on this trip. So, like, he just barely ekes out a win, and you're trying to figure out how it happened. And he's just saying, you have to tell me everything. You have to bring back something from outside. You should get
I'm
one of those
like,
snake swords.
so I'm trying to like hyper focus on the game because I probably hate losing, especially to him because I think he's not as smart as me. So I'm like staring at the board, but I'm not like I have this immediate like jaw drop that I lost because
Mhm.
I'm thinking I was really thinking I was gonna win after that roll, especially. So I'm like, oh, I have this initial jaw drop, but my immediate reaction is to like in my head, logically, what could I have done better? Was this the right move, or should I have done this? And I'm maybe looking up like placing the pillars like with my hands, like like this. And then, no, no, wait, the where do I find a snake? But if I should have like, and then I go back to like thinking about the game. Oh, snake. Yeah, I'll bring. Are they dangerous? Can I? I'll bring one back for you. And I'm like going between conversation and the game.
Right. And he's already run a few sentences ahead, and you just kind of find a latch on point to respond and then go back to calculating. It,
Yeah.
he doesn't really pick up on the fact that you're distracted either. It's working.
Uh, fine. You beat me this time. I think if I would have done this move differently, this would have been different. But you're getting better every day, Pavam. So I'm hoping I can bring you on this trip next time so that you can go find the snake.
Yeah, next year. I'm going to tell my mom to let me go next year
Okay.
when we're 8. Absolutely. Maybe I'll catch one myself. They're super venomous, though. You have to be careful.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'll just get Sarah to, or maybe Tom the Knight. I don't know. Somebody will get the snake then if I'm not supposed to touch it. But I want to make that sword. That sounds really cool. I wonder what kind of food's on the outside too. And I'm just thinking like, oh,
Mhm.
what's this like? What's this gonna be like? What's it again? Very questioning, like, oh, is this gonna be what are the churches like outside? Are people nice? Do they speak common? And like
Well,
very oblivious.
as we cut forward to several weeks later, when you've been traveling across the desert in a heavily guarded caravan, and you've got like a one of those, I don't know, it's not a palisade. It's that thing that people carry so that you don't have to walk,
Oh, are they
like a
oh like the
beer. Yeah,
yeah.
it's spelled Bier. I think that's what it is. You've got one of those. You've been eating really well, because they brought like several camels just to supply you with like nice food. It's not as nice as you would eat at home, but for packed preserved food, it's pretty good. Um, the Phoenix Knights have had a very packed up formation, very carefully armored and guarded. You've moved from oasis to oasis. Every single time they send in the knights to go check it and search it for ambushers or traps, then they set up. And it's this very the entire atmosphere has changed. You've always known, you've been out to the walls before where there's armies on watch and people on guard and battlements and soldiers, but this is a different atmosphere. The tension, as much as people try to keep the tension from reaching you, you're a smart kid. You know it's dangerous. Aside from the Iron Legions of Uzul's empire, wild bands of Raveners can appear at any moment. So it is, aside from the, now that you've already fallen into a pond trying to catch a frog, this is now the most dangerous thing that you've ever done. How does she take to
So,
travel?
am I in the caravan with somebody, or is it just me on
Sarah went
this
with you.
beer?
Your father is also along because he's the important diplomat, but he's not usually directly with you. He spends more time with you actually during this trip than he would most of the time because he's not running around all over the place. It's just the caravan. He doesn't have the whole city to bother.
So is he in speaking distance of me, or is he in a different
More frequently, he
thing? Or...
is.
Okay. I probably wouldn't be initiating conversation with him.
Hmm.
If he initiates it, then I would definitely like respond. But I'm thinking, he's busy, he's thinking about something. I don't have anything important or urgent to talk about, so
Hmm.
I'm not gonna bother him. So I'm probably like brought some kind of textbook that my tutor probably gave me some homework to do on the trip. So I'm probably like, posture right, looking at this book, maybe like
Hmm.
if like probably at the corner of my eye, if I see my whoever's across from me, like maybe steer their gaze in another direction, maybe I'll take this moment to look outside and like not pay attention to my book, and
Hmm.
then but just for a split second and then go back to reading. I'm trying to look as professional as possible, uh whatever. And then if he initiates conversation, then I would speak very like formally to him and kind of to the point.
He's restless. He stirs a lot, and he ends up just bouncing things off of you. And a lot of it are questions about the route that you're going to take and who you're going to meet that you definitely have passing knowledge of, but you never consider yourself one of his advisors. It's like none of his advisors are around, and he needs a sounding board.
So if he says to me, if he gives me like choices of people we should meet, then I'm
Hmm.
probably like just rehashing things he said and like kind of reassure
Hmm.
him on things. He's like, if he's like, oh, I should visit person A, but oh, person B is like good too, but A would really be good for this, then I kind of reassure him on person A, or like
Hmm.
whatever choice he felt more strongly about. And I'm like, I think you're right, father, we should do this part. You already pointed out, pros, cons, A, B, and C, then I
Hmm.
think this would be the best choice. I think you're right. You're a smart guy, like let's do that. And I'm not proposing any ideas, I'm just maybe reaffirming what he is thinking.
Ah, the corporate approach. All right, he takes well to that, and he seems reassured and very pleased with you, and he's proud of you, and then immediately distracted again after like a couple of moments of affirmation. He goes off to whatever he's thinking about, and he's
And
drawn
I'm
up.
like looking outside.
It's mostly desert, the occasional like mountains, often the hills, oases. It's a lot of traveling, and then on the day that you know you can tell there's a change in activity, and your father's been like calculating and going over his itinerary every single time, so you've got a very good idea of how far you've traveled over the weeks you've been on the road. So the day is approaching where they're supposed to meet at a settlement up in some cliffs up in the hills, an outpost where the dune riders often pass through. It's supposed to be a safe place, and he's decided, okay, we're going to take this path because this is going to be the best to approach, but we're going to have some of the knights on this side just to make sure no one can ambush us from over here. we're going to send a detachment forward to inspect the area first. And he's gone over the plan. So you know this is the big day. This is going to be your first time going to a settlement outside of your home.
Is there like room to criticize? Like, is this like the right formation? Is there, because I imagine I'm smart enough that I
Hmm.
could see if flaw in this plan. Is everything seem
Uh,
right?
roll a history check for me.
Eh, let's get some history going.
A 14. You've looked at the maps, and sort of he's had all these charts and stuff lying around inside the palanquin. Thank you, chat, for pointing out the right word. Uh, he's been going over, and it's all made sense to him. But you've looked at some things, and you've pointed out some bits and pieces of information. And the way that he usually takes criticism is he latches onto the problem. He doesn't like get upset. He doesn't get ego-y on it. He also doesn't necessarily say, "Oh, I didn't think of that. Thank you so much." He's like, he just immediately sort of goes down the rabbit hole of, "I didn't think about this. Is this the right solution? Can we solve that? That will work better." And he just sort of either rolls with it and adopts your suggestion, or he hyper focuses on fixing the problem that you've brought to his attention. Um,
And if there's ever like a moment of calm or like lull, I think I might try to ask him, is will we come across any snakes by chance?
Snakes? No, I hope not. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are snakes out here, but I would never want any of them to come anywhere near any of us. That's an unnecessary hazard.
Right. And I'm probably like a little disappointed, probably visually in my face, and I
Hmm.
put my head back in my book, but I'm probably thinking like, well, I won't be able to bring Pavom's sword, but I'm not going to reveal that to him, but he might
Hmm.
be able to tell by my face that I'm disappointed.
Were you hoping to see snakes? We have plenty of
Pav-
books about them.
Now I'm trying to logically come up with a reason, like a good reason why I want to see a snake. I'm like,
Hmm.
Pavam said we can make swords out of snakes, and you never know in the battlefield to make good use of materials that are at our disposal.
Roll a persuasion check.
Oh god.
All right. Your father, you can see like the sands shifting through the chambers of the hourglass in his mind as he mutters to himself somewhat. And a small smile, just the faintest smile, comes over his face. Well, he is an enterprising young boy. We'll ask around in town if they've any flying snakes.
And I kind of have a little bit of a glee in my face. I'm like,
All
"Mm, okay."
right. They set up camp outside and in an oasis, the closest oasis, and they set up for the night and send out a detachment of the Phoenix Knights to check everything and set watch. And it's it's a very dark night. The sky in general is very dark. There's no moon. There's no stars. This is normal. There's only a faint light that emanates from the vault of heaven. This is not unusual. This is not weird. This is just the way the world is at the moment. And it's your first. It's gonna be your first night going out there, and it's gonna be your first day in the morning, seeing another part of the world. Maybe getting a flying snake. It's kind of exciting. It's a little bit difficult to sleep. What does Garnet do when she's having trouble sleeping?
Probably. So is there like a source of light, like maybe a candle or like a
Oh, you got
light spell?
yeah, you got
I
magic. Zayla the Sun Rider, you've definitely got enchanted stones and things that you can like. You've got this glowing rock that you can put a bell over a cover over to obscure it.
Cool. So some form of light, I'll call that a lantern of some sort. I
Hmm.
probably, if no one is in my sleeping quarters, that I would kind of waken with the light, then I would probably pop it open to probably finish up, just get ahead on some homework, and that'll probably exhaust me enough because it's probably difficult more difficult than your average child's homework, so I'm probably
Yes.
thinking that'll exhaust me. And is there a way of tracking time? Like, would I know how late it is?
Mm,
Probably not.
probably not unless you keep an hourglass nearby. Is that something she would do?
Um, I don't know how common is that common for people to have that?
No, but you do not have a common lifestyle. If Garnet Misaka wants an hourglass, she has one.
Okay, so I probably have an hourglass. I probably
Mhm.
packed it, from my tutor to like he probably wants me to do a certain amount of hours of math and super certain amount of hours of this, and it's
And
like
these
turn this
mental
hourglass.
exercises. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like turn the hourglass, and when the sand is gone, you can proceed to the next chapter or something. So I probably have it out, and I'm start the hourglass, and I'm doing homework, and I'm probably like noticing time go by, and I'm like, oh, this has been a few turns of this hourglass now. I should force myself to sleep,
Mhm.
and I'll just try again multiple times.
And at that exact moment, you hear a strange noise from outside your tent. A whooshing. It's not a buzzing, but it's this high speed flapping. This. And the trees that grow over the oasis shift.
And you said it's loud,
It's not
like,
super close, but it's fairly loud. It's
and this is not something I've heard all night. This is a new
no.
sound.
Yeah, the closest it sounds like is the hummingbirds that frequented the gardens in the palace. But this is definitely
Mhm.
bigger.
Is there any like people in my sleeping quarters or near my sleeping or like near my tent? Or
Yeah,
what's the kind of tent arrangement?
there's guards. You're always under guard.
Okay. I might like poke my head out of the tent and
Hmm.
maybe poke the ankle of a guard who's maybe standing in at arm's reach and just I probably know them by name, or if I don't, then I'm probably like,
Hmm.
what was that? Did you hear that?
He's looking around. He's looking at it. Yeah, something flitting around in the trees. It's nothing to be concerned about. We've got you protected.
So are these guards that are like familiar to me, or is this
Hmm.
like maybe a brand new crew?
I mean, they aren't the guards that you're used to from home, but they've been with you over the course of this whole trip. So you've had time to. You're familiar with them at the very least.
Okay. So maybe because like I don't remember them from home, I don't have like that 200% trust in them. So I may be
Hmm.
like taking an extra second to see because I have good vision in the darkness to maybe kind
You
of see
do.
if I can see where that sound is coming from
Okay.
and if I can identify what it is.
Roll a perception
Um,
check.
oh.
Natural 20. It's a flying snake. It's got two pairs of wings that beat incredibly fast, again, like a hummingbird. Um, and it's flitting around in the trees, and it's going down near the edge of the oasis on the far side away from the caravan.
And how far would you say like is this really far away?
It's got to be at least a couple of 100 feet.
I'm gonna poke ankle it again and
Mhm.
I'm gonna be like, get me that snake.
They look at each other. There's this moment of, is this part of our orders? Our orders are to guard her. Does she rank? Can she give us orders? Roll a persuasion check, please. And is it just that firm? Get me that snake.
Like
That's like the start and
kind
total
of
of
like
it.
a not like aggressive or mean, just like get me that snake.
Final, yeah.
Like yeah.
23, a dirty 23, not a natural 20. All right, well, the chain of command may not have been thoroughly explained to them, or at least there's sufficient concern. So he's gonna head out. He's gonna walk off carefully with his spear in hand. He wishes he had a net. He looks around. He like takes off his sash and he starts creeping into the oasis. And you can see it easily 20, 30 feet above him in the tall palm trees. He's giving chase, kind of following it around. It gets low. He moves into position to grab it. It dives into a bush. He jumps after it. There's a shift. The leaves rustle. The buzzing intensifies. You hear a shout. And the guard stumbles out of the bush, running and retching as he goes. What do you do?
So he's coming in our direction, just like screaming. I'm like, because I'm still at like floor level and this guard's like standing. So
Mhm.
I'm like pushing the ankle of the other guard. And I'm like, well, what are you waiting for?
Go back
And
inside.
I'm very calm.
Go back
And I'm very
inside.
calm, but I'm like, what are you waiting
Mhm.
for? And then he says, go back inside. So I'm like, all right. And I'm kind of putting my head back in the tent, but I'm like, I have like it mostly zipped up, but I'm like kind of looking at what's going on.
All right. Before I proceed with the mystery of what just transpired, we have some other business to attend to that could completely change the tone of the scene because
Behold, an act of God.
ooh,
What is it?
oh,
I
the
missed it.
ultimate illusion, reasserting social parameters, adhere to written instructions. Yes, yes, the cruel gods make their presence known. The camp goes on alert. The guard running, stumbling back, pale, terrified, horrified of what he's seen, sounding the alarm. You can hear the Phoenix Knights and the guards taking up defensive positions, calling out to each other, sealing you off. Suddenly, you are barricaded inside your tent as a hue and cry goes up throughout the entire, waking the whole caravan. And they start packing. Shortly, your father comes in looking incredibly distressed. Grab everything, we're going right now. Don't look out there, just grab your things.
So I'm grabbing like whatever textbooks I can. I don't know how many I brought, but just textbooks are the first thing I brought. And probably I put my hair down for sleep. So I'm like brooch and books. First things. Everything else, gone.
Right. They strike camp almost immediately, assuming a defensive perimeter. You can hear them nervously talking to each other. The forward vanguard that went to inspect the town has not returned. The
Are you saying
scouts,
that to me? Okay.
you overhear this. Nobody's explaining this to you. You've overheard this. The scouts sent to ensure that the high road overlooking was secure have not returned. An odd smell wafts from across the oasis as the winds change. A smell that I don't know if Garnet's ever really experienced. It's this coppery, tangy, bright red scent. Mixed with it is a choking, sooty smoke. The tent is rapidly packed up by an army of servants, and they bundle you into the palanquin as fast as you can. You books spill from your hands, and they try to grab them and stuff them in there, but that's not the priority. There is no time. They are taking battle formations outside. What do you do?
Would I know these are battle formations? Like I probably have
Yeah.
learned about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the palanquin and I'm trying not to freak out,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always been a non-emotional person, but now I'm really starting to freak because I've always been like, Zalar's got my back, my parents got my back, we got the best knights in
Mm-hmm.
town or in the world, we're good. But now this is the first I've ever kind of down that safety blanket. So I'm really starting to like try not to visually show it because I'm trying not to distress anyone else and
Mm-hmm.
be another thing they have to worry about. So I guess my instinct is to pray. However, I've been taught to pray, thinking like
Mm-hmm.
praying to Zalar or praying to whatever god to help us and protect us is probably my first reaction. So not even bothering with the textbooks. I probably like throw them as soon as I get in and
Mm-hmm.
kind of look around and then kind of try and calm down and then pray, because I'm thinking like if I ask them for help, they will come. That's my thought.
All right. You start moving away, and they're hitting a pace right now. It's a bumpy ride where it's been like smooth over the dunes, relatively speaking. It is bumpy. They are moving. And off in the distance, you can hear more yelling. You can hear battle orders. And then you hear this odd metal sound. Just a clamor of metal striking metal and thudding against the ground. Thud, 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 and it grows, and there's more of them. And then you hear a terrible shriek uttered by no creature of flesh and blood. A grating, fiery forge, but somehow given a throat. And you can feel the heat even from here, and you can see a flash of light from outside, and the screams, and the smell of burning flesh, and the sounds of metal on metal, and men and women shouting, screaming, snarling, and dying as they come into contact with some horrible mechanical foe behind you.
Is anyone in the caravan thing with me?
No. You're just being
So I guess
carried.
so I'm probably, is there like, I'm guessing like a window or
There's like
then-
drapes. You can part the drapes to look out.
so I'm probably trying to like close the drapes and like hide myself as
Mhm.
much as possible, but only kind of a little bit poke my head just enough to see what's going on outside, and
Mhm.
probably trying to look for mother and see if I can see him or anyone I recognize, or just kind of assess the situation after I've been done praying.
Mhm.
Probably just a short, especially with the bumpy ride, I'm not able to focus on praying, and I'm probably get more stressed out that I'm not being able, this praying is not helping me or probably anyone else right now, where maybe I've
Mhm.
said my piece. So now I'm trying to like hide to not reveal myself, because I know I'm kind of not like important, but I'm just trying not to be in any more danger than I already am, and then kind of seeing what's going on outside, but mainly looking to see if I can see my father.
As you look out at the, and your vision is jarred by the movement of the palanquin, you look out over and you can see a battle transpiring inside the oasis, obscured by the trees, but slowly illuminated as the palms catch fire. You can see shifting silhouettes, a swarm of figures, all sharp angles, the light glinting off their surface with dead eyes, falling upon the soldiers in the Phoenix Guard who are in formation. As you search for your father in all of this mess, you can hear for a moment his voice as he calls out a prayer, and a brilliant beam of sunlight breaks through the night, striking through the attackers. And that light is enough for you to see an image that will be burned into your mind for the rest of your life. You've never witnessed a battle before. You've never seen so much blood. You've never seen bones and flesh cleaved from the body while the mouth still screams. And you've certainly never seen anything like the creatures attacking the Phoenix Guard in this moment. Somewhere underneath all that metal, perhaps, is flesh, but it's been bolted on in great plates and weapons, half iron, half meat, with steam billowing out from their joints, mindless, driven in a wave as they fall upon, not even human, they fall upon your friends with such forceful blows that they puncture armor and break shields. And standing behind all of them is a tall figure, hunched over, wearing rust-colored robes, holding in its hand a large metal rod. And its face cannot be seen because a rounded plate of metal is bolted over it. And the light flashes from your father's staff, and darkness falls again, illuminated only by fire flinging from some of the horrific machines. What do you do?
So is it kind of an even combat right now, or is it like we're losing a lot?
It's very messy and very hard to tell. You, especially since, yeah, you should be applying the logical side of things to this right now, but you've never witnessed this kind of horrific butchery. Um, Roll a wisdom saving throw. 16. Okay, you're able to get an estimate of it. The enemy attacked by surprise, and they are incredibly dangerous, but your formation hasn't broken. The Phoenix Guard are very elite. They're holding the line right now. It's fairly even.
Is there anyone near the palanquin that I'm in
Yeah,
that is
there's
in formation?
four Phoenix Knights, 4 guards, 2 servants.
Are they like have they been fighting at all, or are
No,
they
they grabbed you and they are booking it. They are leaving.
and I guess maybe I'm like, how can I help? I'm freaking out and I'm like, I can't just sit here. Have to do something. And this is where maybe my mother's kind of nature is coming out.
Mhm.
Like, how can I do the help? Like, this is what she's been talking about. This is what I was prepared to do one day, but I've never been maybe combat trained. Again, it's very
Mhm.
textbook based, but it's like, what would my mom do right now? And is she here, by the way, or is she
She's back at home.
back? So I'm thinking, okay, what would my mother do right now? And I'm like, maybe trying to is can I open the window, or is
Yeah,
it
it's just like a curtain.
oh, it's a curtain. Okay.
Yeah.
So I may be trying to like I'm staring at my hands, and maybe
Mhm.
if I channel healing hands, like maybe my
Mhm.
symbol glows or something like that. So I'm like, this is all I have. And maybe I'm trying to stick my arm out and be like maybe if I see somebody injured as we're going by or something, I could be
Mhm.
like, let me help you or something. And I'm trying to like I think my healing hands do a lot more than,
Mhm.
because it's 2 hit points. So I'm thinking like this will save somebody. And I may be a little bit delusional in that case of like, this is how I can help. I can save somebody. I can do
Mhm.
something to help. This is what my mother would do. She would risk something to help somebody. So I'm trying to like maybe reach my arm out and see if I'm not going to leave because the
Mhm.
palanquin's in motion, but I'm like, if I see somebody nearby, I'm going to try and get their attention. Be like, let me help you. And my hands are maybe glowing so they know I'm trying to do something.
Right. That you can feel the healing light flowing through you, this rush of life and soothing, but you are being pulled away from the battle so fast. If somebody falls, but they're just 10 feet away, out of reach, and the palanquin is not stopping. You're too far away, and you're getting even further away, and you're not
So
able
maybe
to
I'm
help.
starting to cry because I'd
Mhm.
like we've just left somebody behind to die, and I'm thinking logically we should have been able to bring this person along with us. Maybe we could have stopped and helped them. Maybe we could have like I'm trying to logically come up with a reason why we would not stop and help because again, a very
Mhm.
selfless type of person. So I'm like maybe putting now my whole head out and kind of looking out and been like, "Stop! Like we need. I can save him." And I'm getting really distressed now, maybe even a bit teary eyed because I just saw maybe someone close to death or even dead for my first time. So I'm like, "I can save him. Stop!"
And as you say that, a single streak of fire cuts through the night, guided directly towards the voice, the small young voice emanating from the palanquin. You see it coming. It flies from the hand of the metal faced monstrosity guiding these abominations. A flick of the hand, a small bolt of green flame surges towards you. It reflects in your eyes as it billows and widens, turning the sand to glass beneath it. A rush of hot air emits from it. The people bearing your palanquin scream in pain, and you go falling over as the entire thing topples over onto its side.
So I'm probably like thrown back, and I'm because I was kind of like half out the window, so I'm like
Mm-hmm.
thrown to the side, and
Yeah, you
I'm
did not have
imagining
your
it's not.
seatbelt on. Roll.
I imagine it's not falling on the Windows side, right? It's falling on. The opposite side?
Well, I mean, you were looking out towards the battle, right? So it blew up near
Right.
you, on
Oh,
your
okay.
side. Yeah.
Ooh.
Roll a dexterity save for me, please.
Ah!
4!
Damn it.
Well,
So I'm getting tossed.
yeah. The last thing you remember is the scream of the guards caught in the fireball, this blast of searing heat, and just falling over and over.
So I'm like knocked out.
Yeah.
Alright, I am knocked out.
And we're gonna hit another act of God before we awaken.
Another one!
Mm-hmm.
Another one.
Behold, an act of God.
Oh, there's only one way to do this properly.
The design is inexorable.
Oh, things did not just get better.
I gotta read what this is.
Deviation exceeds parameters. Direct intervention is necessary.
What?
The same force that this is out of character, and this is something that, depending on how much infernal lore Garnet has investigated, this is the sign of Anacronus, the Eschaton Clock, one of the Infernals, the Machine Prince of Chaos, whose followers have a great clockwork city where everybody who is gathered unto them is turned into a half-machine thrall, working the foundries and the forges. These are the people who just attacked you, and things just got worse. When you awaken, you are in more pain than you ever remember being in your life. Your mouth is incredibly dry. You are lying down on something soft. And there's no one else around as far as you can tell. And the sun is, well, actually, no, it's dark. It's completely dark.
Oh, is this my time to? Okay.
Yeah. But sorry.
Okay. I was like,
What do you
I was-
do?
Can I tell how long I've been out? Okay, so my mouth is dry, so it's probably been a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like just opening my eyes, like tossing my head. I'm trying not to move because I know, like, probably from studies, if you've been injured, call an insurance person here. No, I'm probably like just trying to get aware of my surroundings before I start moving. Because last thing I remember, we were in a lot of trouble. So I don't know if they're still around. So I'm trying to just maybe wake up and like kind of oozing my like just turning my head, but not body. Do I see anything?
Yes. You are inside a cave, dripping with water. You're on a cushion of some sort, and there's no light sources in here whatsoever. But it's fairly spacious. You can see some piles. Again, in the darkness, all you can see are shades of gray. You can't see any color, but you do have very good eyesight. You can see there's just things heaped up around you. It looks like some of your books, some of your belongings gathered up. A few pieces of the jewelry. You wouldn't wear too much jewelry on the road, but you're still, a very important person. They would have given you some. Some of those pieces are like neatly stacked next to you. There's a stone bowl with water in it right next to you, and there's actually water dripping from the ceiling directly into it.
Through my studies, would I know if cave water that is dripping, is that safe to drink?
I mean, you didn't really roll a nature check. It's not your specialty, but we'll give it a look. 20. Based on the particular stone that it's dripping through, that would function as a natural filter, eliminating most toxins, so it's probably safe to drink.
So I'm probably like sitting up, looking at the bowl, looking up,
Mhm.
and not really sure who gave me this bowl. So I'm just gonna like and just open wide and only drink from the drips that are coming from the cave source. Just remembering, like, I don't know where this is from, but I know where that's from. And I trust that. I'm thirsty. I can't even speak. And I'm like trying to, swallow saliva, but it's not working. So I'm like,
Just
just to
judging.
hydrate,
Mhm.
just Pac Man style, just, and just trying to drink. And probably the first thing I'm grabbing is my brooch. Just if it's like kind of in arm's reach, like I'm
Mhm.
grabbing that because that's like not like a safety blanket, but it's like, oh, thank God I still have this kind of
Yes.
thing. That kind of like looking, calling out for anyone, still like trying to get a sense, how did I get here or who put me here?
All right. So you're calling
Footprints
out?
on the ground, not calling out, just kind of, is there any footprints I'm seeing on the
Mhm.
ground or like someone else's clothes, or is there uh, indications that someone else was maybe sleeping nearby, or just any presence of someone else?
Roll a perception check, please. 6.
Can I re-roll my lucky dice?
Yes, you spend 1
I
luck
haven't
point,
used that yet.
roll
I
again,
haven't
and
used it yet.
use the 8 that you got. All right, so
Supposed to be lucky.
you're searching around the cave. Um, it's relatively smooth. It's uneven, but it's not jagged. And your eyes pass over an alcove.
Oh, it's persuasion.
That is persuasion.
Well, oops. I'm
So
sorry.
that would no, that's fine. So you rolled a 16. So you actually your eyes pass over the alcove, and then as they trace back, you see, was there somebody sitting there a moment ago? Or did he just appear? You can't tell. He's almost blended into the very shadows themselves.
So when there, I'm like,
Mhm.
I shouldn't talk to strangers. So I'm like, I'm maybe just checking him out, like kind of staring at him to see if he's
Mhm.
gonna like react or anything, and then maybe slowly, just try, obviously like stealthily. I know he's looking right at me, but I'm like,
Mhm.
it's like when you move slowly, like creatures have like that much of a reaction to like,
I've mastered the art of becoming standing so still I'm completely invisible.
yeah. So I'm just trying to like grab my things. So
Mhm.
it's like if I have to make a run for it, I'm gonna have like as many things that I can hold. So like the brooch and like
Mhm.
maybe a couple of books that I can hold, and just like getting ready to run for it, but just kind of staring at him and seeing what he's doing or they're doing.
You won't get far drinking like that. How's that working for you?
Oh, it speaks. I probably said that like under my breath. I'm like, uh, well, this is a natural. These rocks are natural filters for water. Wouldn't you know if you've lived here before?
Yes, that's why I've been catching the stuff for when you woke up.
I'm like looking down at the bowl, and I'm like, there's nothing. You didn't put anything in that?
The figure looks just like an old man with a bit of wisp of white hair, wearing rough robes. Again, hard to discern in the dark. It's the gray of the dark vision. It makes all the colors look the same. That's got to be it.
So I'm thinking like this is probably an evil guy. So I'm just like, uh, probably not still gonna drink from that. But in wait, can
Suit
I
yourself.
ask to insight check something? But
Yeah.
or can I tell if he's lying to me about the bowl of water not having stuff in it?
Roll an insight check.
Oh, okay,
You are
great rolls.
uncertain.
I still don't drink it then. So I'm just like grabbing my things and I'm looking at the bowl, looking back at him, and I'm like, where is who? I have so many questions. Like I'm probably asking like 3 different questions, but I cut off each question and I start another one. So I'm like, where is why am, hmm. And I'm just like, I'm stopping to try and choose the right question because I don't know what answer I want to get or if I even want the answer. So I'm like in thought at the moment.
Take your time.
Is he saying that in like a polite way or like a condescending way?
Kind of a dismissive way.
Okay. Did you bring me here?
Yes, I dragged you here before the Iron Butchers could.
Iron Butchers. Do I know what this is naturally?
Well, history
or?
check.
Okay. This is my jam.
Natural 20. Yes. Yeah, the Infernals in general tend to use a lot of iron. Iron theming is not unique. It's cast around through several of them. But the designers are the followers of Anacra, which is another name you should not say out loud. One of the cruel gods, the Machine Prince. And that's one way to reference the machines that they send out to collect and drag people back to their city to make more of them.
Oh, what? Is everyone okay? Did you manage to get everyone else here? I don't. I'm like obviously not seeing anyone else, but I'm trying to come to terms. So I'm like, did everyone get back okay?
Shrugs.
What do you mean? And I shrug back at him. What do you mean?
I didn't pick through the whole smoldering battlefield. Some lived,
Is
some
there-
died.
So I'm probably trying to like not reveal who my father is because I still don't know who this person is. So I'm trying not to like reveal that I'm like anyone important because I don't know if this person has kidnapped me or like what. So I'm trying to be like, has anyone survived? With the who? Why did you grab me? What about everyone else?
Oh, little old me. I've not the strength to drag more than one to this place out of sight. You are about the only one light enough.
So who are you then? Why? How did you survive? How did I survive? Ow! And I'm like, now I'm maybe noticing like whatever injuries I have.
The fact that you're at 1 hit point.
Oh yeah. So I'm probably like finally now that I'm like adrenaline maybe wearing down a bit, I'm like, ow! I'm like tending to whatever, like holding whatever hurts.
Oh, old Merrick knows his way about the shadows. Never saw me, not once.
Merrick? Who's Merrick?
The old man looks incredulously at you, waves his hands, points his hands back at himself.
Oh, you're
Yes.
Oh. Hi, my name's Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Ah, Sarah, have you read any of those fancy books you've got?
Uh-huh. Most of them. I'm on chapter 6 of this one, and I finished this. I'm on this 3rd read of this one, and I'm like pointing out each book, and I'm like, this. I'm on this one and this chapter, and.
All right. Roll a deception check.
Oh shit! Was I lying about that?
Your name isn't Sarah.
Oh yeah, that part. Yeah, true.
Sarah, what crime did you commit against the priest kings to be under such careful watch?
Crime? I'm thinking back. I haven't done anything ever. I fell in a pond once and lied about it.
Ah, and for that you were sentenced to be carted back to their city. Just.
I'm just a tourist. I don't
Oh,
know where
yes,
we were.
just a tourist. Well, in such fine a prisoner under such careful guard, or a very important tourist to be borne on the shoulders of tired Bronthan servants.
Well, you'd be surprised what kind of transportation you can get with good money around here.
Yeah. Child, you're not
Right, listen.
dead, but you're very, very far from home.
What do you want, old man? Do you want money? Do you want jewelry? Do you
Ah,
what do you want?
drink some water and eat some food so I can get you out of my life and go back to my studies.
Food sounds really good. And then I'm maybe like, as soon as he said food, I stuck onto that
Mhm.
detail, and I'm like, oh, thinking back at like some maybe some dishes I've had at home, and I'm sure like we didn't
Mhm.
have the greatest, as good of food while traveling. So I'm like, oh, I'd love like a sirloin right now. Wait, you said studying? What are you studying? Any of this stuff? And I'm like be pointing at my books.
No.
Well, what do you like to read?
I won't bother you with my interests. They certainly don't align with yours, and they're beyond your grasp at the moment.
Hmm. Well, they do say age brings a lot of wisdom, but I understand if you don't want to share anything. I was just curious, and I may be now using healing hands, kind of like my hands glow a bit, and I
Mhm.
start to maybe patch some whatever wounds I can on myself
All right,
because
you have
I
3
have
hit
many
points now.
ouchies. Yay!
The faint light of the mark on your hand as you channel the healing power, it just barely illuminates the cave. And this person who's sitting there, his shadow drifts far, far past him. It engulfs the entire cavern for a brief moment. Then the light fades as the healing is complete.
A bit better.
Did he help?
So what? I'm like probably paying attention to me healing.
Mhm.
What? So what was that?
The Sun Rider. Did he help?
Which one's the Sunrider? Out of
Zalar.
our.
Yeah, no, all good. It's one
Oh,
of the
okay.
titles of Zalar. Your character
Oh,
would know that. Out of character, there is no quiz.
maybe. Okay. Uh, Probably as soon as he says that, I'm like
Mhm.
realizing that like my whole life, like I've just thought everything was gonna be okay because
Mhm.
Zalar, and I was always safe, and the most amount of trouble I've been in is falling in a pond, and now I'm like, do I have like blood, like any maybe bladder? Probably is it my own blood? Is it other people's blood,
It's
or
probably
like
somebody else's blood. People who got blown up by a fireball.
so maybe like looking down
Char.
and reading
Mhm.
like how much of a mess I've been in and coming to terms of like not a lot of people survived. I don't know where my father is. Maybe it's too soon to presume he's dead, but now I'm getting more emotional and I'm like, he could be dead. I could be the last one. And oh, wait till mother hears about this. This is, how am I even going to get back? I wasn't paying attention to the ride. I don't know how to even get home. And I'm like, maybe start to cry, and I'm like looking at my symbol, and I'm like, you let me down. You were supposed to protect. I prayed to you. I I've been doing everything you, and I may be talking to my hand at this point,
Mhm.
maybe like to myself. He can maybe hear, maybe not, but I'm like, you were supposed to protect me. And I'm yelling at my hand, maybe a little bit crazy now. So I'm like, did everything. I did all the rituals. I've recited every cantation. I've been studying. I've been doing all of this. I did everything you said. What is, and I'm like starting to get like more crying and sobbing, and now I'm like bubbling over words now because I'm just like bumbling over words I'm just like, yeah. I'm like looking down at my clothes and my hand. I'm like freaking out. I'm trying to like healing hands, but I know I can only, this exhausts me. So I'm like, I can't
Mhm.
healing hands anymore. So I'm like, now I'm like going through like a breakdown.
Merrick sits there, inscrutable, not really the focus of your attention at the moment, not intervening, um, not moving from his perch. If he doesn't do anything to intervene, what is the natural end state of this breakdown?
So there's no fire or any, is there like oh yeah, because you said it's a dark cave,
Yeah,
no
completely dark,
fire.
no light sources whatsoever.
So I'm like probably tearing off like headdress, like whatever like tools of Zalar that I can take off. If there's like
Hmm.
a headdress or whatever, I'm like off any but I was carrying books or had I throwing them like erratically at the wall and I'm crying and I'm like not living, but I'm definitely cursing Zalar's name of just
Hmm.
you were supposed to protect us. What kind of God are you? And I'm saying some things that I would never say in any other time. This is like unheard of. This is like, curse you, Zalar. You let my whole family down, whatever's left of it. And I'm throwing books and throwing whatever jewelry I can on the ground and
Hmm.
whatever I can take off that is there. And I'm maybe like even itching at the symbol, like maybe trying to rub it up. It's like a permanent birthmark, but I'm like rubbing it off, like trying to
Hmm.
get rid of it.
It
I'm
is
like continuing.
in the middle of that you realize that Merrick has crossed the room. And as you're just sort of scraping at the back of your hand, he quietly extends his own. He doesn't take your hand to stop you, but he reaches as if he's going to and then pauses.
I'm like crying and maybe like I don't notice him and I'm like focused on what I'm doing and throwing
Hmm.
stuff and maybe I've even thrown a book like near him or in his direction, but I only notice or pay attention to him until he's like in arm's reach and then I just maybe stop acting erratically. I haven't stopped crying,
Hmm.
but maybe I'm like looking at the hand and I look up to him and I'm like trying to just wait to see what he wants me to do.
He's more serious now, less just grouchy and sitting there. His features have softened. The deep set, weary looking eyes less glaring at this point. He's offering you his hand essentially.
Do, I don't know any spells right at this point.
You do not at this point.
Okay. I how would I strangers helping you in a breakdown. How would you react? That's tough. That's tough. I probably like probably just lean my head on his chest, not like
Hmm.
taking any hand, but just like oh,
Hmm.
and just like head down, cry, not taking a hand, just like some essence
Hmm.
of comfort from that with but still not fully connecting.
Okay. The robes that he's wearing, he looked like just sort of bundled up hermit, probably was wearing burlap or something, but it's cool. It's physically cool to the touch. It's against the hot tears and the remnants of the burns that you have left. It's this dark, cold, almost I don't want to say like a salve, but at least it's something. It's making it less painful. The tears just immediately absorb into the black fabric, whatever it is.
Does he smell any kind of way or just normal?
It's another unfamiliar smell, um, because you've never been where it snows or anywhere like that. Uh, the closest I would get is when you were going through the servants' quarters, when you were passing through like the wine storage in the wine cellar, where it was deliberately dark and cool, and that underground sort of not musk, not rot, but just that earthy smell.
So I'm probably like realizing, like, probably after a moment that I'm a little bit embarrassed because I just completely acted out.
Mhm.
And now I'm in a stranger's grasp and I'm finally coming into terms to my situation. Like I kind of acted
Mhm.
out and I was irrational, but now I'm kind of coming back to reality and I kind of stand back up and realizing how he's not warm and doesn't smell normal. And have I gotten a look at his face being this close? Kind
Yeah.
of, I guess I can look up and look at him
Yeah,
now.
he just looked like an old man from further away, but now that you're closer, the skin it's extremely pale, a little smoother than it first appeared, almost like the wrinkles aren't actual physical wrinkles. It's more of a almost a pattern under the skin.
So you know when those people like try to crack a joke at like serious moments to kind of
Mhm.
take attention away from what's happening, I'll be
Right.
like kind of looking up at him, I'll be like, "Well, you're on your last you look like you're on your last legs too there, buddy."
Certainly not my first. We've all been let down.
Kind of look back and see it like the mess I've created and
Mhm.
apologies for acting out like that. I'm I'm Garnet. I'm with the uh I don't know what the name of this brigade is out of character,
Mm.
but whatever.
It was
With
an
the
yeah, what's the sort I'm looking for? The envoy from Brontha, the
okay.
Bronthan
Well,
envoy.
I'm with the envoy from Brontha and we were on our way to this destination and then this battle happened and the whole cart got tossed and here I am and I don't know how to get home. I don't want to trouble you with my issues. I maybe start to go and reach at some books that I've thrown and maybe try to clean up a bit. And I'm not trying to trouble you, sir. You sound like you have a lot of studies to get back to. Could you point me in the direction of? I notice it's dark. Uh, direction of Bromtha.
He takes a step back and sits down on a nearby rock and says, "Rest up a bit, get your strength. I'll point you on your way."
Do I notice like any of his belongings in this cave, or is it just mine?
Yes. Now that you've been here for a little bit longer, there's a nook around the way, and there are stacks of books. There's sort of a desk or a slab of stone that's functioning as a desk. There are carvings in the stone itself, arcane signs, symbols, things unfamiliar. You recognize one though. It's a pillars board, or it's the same shape as a pillars board. It's the sign of the four pillars, and it's carved into the wall, but it has an odd cross mark behind it.
Hmm. I probably like as I'm maybe arranging my books and I maybe
Mhm.
spot some things. I spot the pillars board first and probably look at all the symbols. And I'm very curious, but at this moment, I need to just relax.
Mhm.
And I'm probably too distraught to want to be curious about or study anything else. So I maybe see the pillars board and I go, "You play pillars?
I dabble.
You want to play a game? Do you want to play a game?"
Well, not certainly. He'll pull it out, set it before you, very deliberately takes each of the pieces and sets them in their places. It's a the one that he has out, it's a beautiful obsidian volcanic glass piece. It almost seems like naturally fractured that way. Obviously it didn't, but the craftsmanship is it's this very sort of rugged, raw, natural beauty to it.
So I'm trying to play him at that at
Mhm.
the game, and I'm trying to study his moves and see how good he is at the game.
All right. Roll an insight check to get a read on him. 13. He plays a very odd, slow, very slow style. If you didn't know better, you'd say he didn't know what he was doing, but there's just enough hints of deep strategy there to make you uncertain.
Hmm. I'm probably like so bad at this game because I'm trying to use this game as a way to just feel any kind of happiness, any kind
Hmm.
of relief, and kind of even bring me back to a time where I was playing with Pevomm, like that, like pure happiness, kind of
Hmm.
nothing else matters moment. In playing him, I'm probably losing every game because I just can't think. I'm probably dehydrated, hungry,
Hmm.
and have a concussion for all I know. So I'm losing like every game, but I'm like admiring, I guess, maybe his different style of playing. So now I'm just admiring now the
Mhm.
fact that he's obviously studying a lot and he's really good at this game. And however long he wants to play, I'm playing.
All right. At the end of you're not sure how many games have gone by, and he's just been winning over and over. He ponders for a moment, and he points at one of the four edges of the star on the board. Birth. He points to the next one. Life. Death. Renewal. It spins and it spins and it spins on itself, and it just goes on forever. But nothing can really work that way. If you don't keep feeding a fire new fuel, the fire is going to go out. It doesn't light itself up again. If you push a rock down a hill, it's going to reach the bottom and stop. So why does this just get to keep spinning and turning on itself forever?
So maybe as soon as he said death, I'm like fixated on that
Hmm.
symbol or token. And I'm maybe like kind of tracing my fingers in that like circular motion he was trying to like kind of guide me to. And then I kind of
Hmm.
stop at death and I just say, why didn't he help me? Speaking of like Zalar in this case, but I say he.
Because it's all part of his cycle. What is death to the phoenix? It will rise again as something else. As far as the Sunrider is concerned, whatever lives are lost will become something new and just rejoin the dance over and over. New shapes, new forms, new names, life and death, it all just turns on itself. What does it matter when you're a god?
I'm frowning and I'm like, why don't they just I say kill, but then I stop myself because that's
Mhm.
like a heavy word. Why don't they uh unalive the bad ones? Why don't they just unalive the iron uh, whatever the Ironland? I'm usually very knowledgeable, so I'm
Mhm.
skipping over words because I'm stressed at this moment. Why don't they just unalive the iron goats out there? And where is keep the eternal life for the good ones that follow Zalar? This is not how it's supposed to be. That's not how. It's not how it's supposed to be.
Well, they're only so strong. They've lost before, you know.
I
The, fir-
frown more, and I'm just like, this is
the first
this is
time around,
bullshit.
the Infernals won. Took everything. Swept the whole board. He literally sweeps all the pieces off.
I gasp because he messed up the arrangement. How do they get to win?
Just strength. Just being stronger, more vicious.
I'm like, I've been staring at this. I haven't made eye contact because I'm
Hmm.
probably like, if she might like avoid eye contact if she's like upset or just like in thought. So she's just been staring at the death symbol. And
Hmm.
well, how do I get that strength? How do I? I want to, I want to kill this these infernals, they're ruined everything.
He takes the board, now devoid of all the pieces, and he flips it over. And on the underside is carved a spiral.
What's that?
Birth, life, death, and renewal. We're taught that's all that is. The cycle turning on itself forever. But there's something else that drives it, or it would go out. Something else that pushes back against it, confronts it, challenges it, that forces it to keep turning. It's the fifth pillar. The
Fifth one?
silence. Yes. Oh, they love to tell you everything around here comes in fours, but trust me, there's usually one exception. Oh, it's older than creation. It is deeper than death, more primal than birth. Just the absence of everything. What happens when everything else stops? It's not something the Infernals and their minions and their empires dabble in. It's not something your priests and flame fathers would teach you. It's older than any of that. It is the hunger that gnaws at the feet of creation, keeping it spiraling on itself forever. The shadows of reality.
So this is all lies. All of this. Everything was gonna be fine. We were all supposed to be protected if we followed this is why we do the rituals. This is why we prayed to the sun and the different phases of the sun and what do you mean shadow? What do you mean shadows?
Well, just what's left over. You stop making light, darkness. You stand in front of the light, darkness. The default state of all things. When there's no sun, no heat, just emptiness. The way things are when nobody's trying. The power of shadow is older than the gods and older than the Infernals. And one day, it'll devour all of them.
Devour? So it's stronger than all of this? It's stronger than like is Zalar is stronger than my Moses is stronger than, and I'm maybe naming off like these gods and people I respect. It's stronger than all of them?
Yes. It brought the very world before to heal. And it can be learned.
Now I maybe glanced up and down while he's been talking, like if he says like a keyword like shadows, I'm like, oh, and I go back down into thought. Go back into thought. And now I'm coming to terms to what is happening, and I say, no one is coming to get me, are they?
He shakes his
They're
head.
all dead. They're all dead.
He
They're
nods.
gone. And I'm like maybe stunned for a moment and getting really angry now, and I'm like, well, if these shadows are so much older and better than all of this, and I'm pointing at my outfit and whatever, like kind of flailing my arm up to the symbol. If it's better than all of this, then why have I been studying this? I could have been studying that. And maybe like maybe gesture to his books. Well, this sounds a lot better than what I've been doing.
Mirek peers down at you, studying, analyzing, thinking. Cracks his back and stands up and says, all right. Let's see if you have what it takes.
And maybe like grab his hand as he's standing up. Not to like pull him down, but just like this is finally like a first gesture or like touch besides maybe like the one lean I did of now. Because now we've been playing this game and I'm already starting to admire the way he plays and the way he thinks. And now he has all these symbols and all these things I don't know about. And like, well, I want to be strong. I want to protect. I kind of maybe sigh at the protection word because that all fell apart. I want to kill those iron butchers. I want to kill all the cruel gods. I want to kill them all. And this is like, now I've said that like I'm like I want to kill them all, but not like in a funny way. Like I'm very serious about like, and this is the first time I probably said the K word. So I'm like, now I'm like, I want to protect people to I want to kill the people that did this.
You do, don't you?
I'm like nodding.
I think I believe you. He pulls his hand, which is cold to the touch, away. Let's see what lies in your own shadows, Garnet. He takes his hands, brings them together. His eyes widen into pools of shadow. It's as if they become hollow, darker than dark, just empty. And as he pulls his hands apart, a blackness that not even your dark vision can pierce widens between them, a spiral opening up. His arms tremble as if exerting great force as he pulls them apart. And at last, the darkness begins to give away. And through the other side of it, you see a vast, empty plain, infinite in all directions, devoid of all color. And from the plain rises a silent city, built at the scale of giants, towering upon itself in its emptiness. And up the stairs that lead from the bottom to the top of the silent city lie 7 great gates. Let us see what lies within your shadows. And that's where we're going to actually call it for the night, folks.
Yeah!
This is so much fun. You did a fantastic job.
That was so fun. I'm so glad that we got to this point.
I know. You, when you originally created your character backstory, we had it going in a slightly different direction, a slightly different ending, which is what I was going to do. But we had a 50 sub act of God that was the same Infernal that attacked, and things changed.
That's
things
crazy. Holy, the amount of active gods we've had today is so cool.
So what we're going to do is, I know that we didn't get to the point where you actually enter IOTH Academy. Our next episode is going to bring the gang together. We'll hash out behind the scenes the remaining sequence of events that leads you to attend, and it will be a secret surprise for the rest of our viewing audience.
And me, because I don't know either.
No, we'll talk about it. You'll know when we get there. You'll know when we get there, but it'll be a secret to everyone else.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone, for your fantastic support. It's been a lot of fun so far. This is our last prologue episode. Please join us next week when we're finally going to the magic school. Each of our heroes has all sorts of secrets. Garnet is bringing her own darkness with her from the light of her homeland. We're going to find out where that heads next time on Book of Dawn, IOTH Academy.